Hi, I'm Patty McGarrahan from the Mindz, and I'm here today with Ruth Shilling. Hi, Ruth. We met years ago. We met at a place in New Jersey where we were both taking classes all the time, and we met and we had a really good time with some spoon bending that we did in a restaurant and created a little bit of a busyness. Everybody was like intrigued. And so I got her to come and to the Mind's Eye and do spoon bending with me. And now we've been in contact back and forth, lost track of each other, and found us recently. So I'm so excited to have her today. She's going to be talking about a few things she does, including she takes a lot of tours to Europe. And in the process, she's got some really good information on transformation. Egypt. What did I say? Europe, Egypt. So she's got a lot of good information on transformation that are tied in a lot with Egypt. Mm-hmm. So Ruth, go ahead and go.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And just before I start, I do want to say that it is a pleasure to get to do this with you. You are an extremely gifted individual that you've developed your skills as well, and you have done so much for so many people. So,
Ruth,
I just wanted to get a chance to say that right at the beginning.
Thank you so much,
I just
Ruth,
admire you so much. Really.
Thank you.
It's just great. So anyway, yes, I just got back from Egypt. And so I do tours. I lead tours there. It was actually trip number 59.
59?
Yeah,
oh
it
my
might
gosh.
be 60, but it's one or the other. Mm-hmm. And so I had originally talked to you about talking about the Egyptian gods and goddesses, but then I really got a strong intuition that it would be good to talk about transformation.
Okay.
Because this is a lovely opportunity, and anyone that can get benefit from this, I would love to be able to share.
Oh, you know? I'm so glad you're doing that. Yes.
Egypt is all about death and rebirth. And it's common that people come to Egypt at a time when they're between two chapters of their life. There is something that's been happening, some event comes about, and then there's the next chapter.
Yep.
And I think that this is happening to many of us right now, which is why I thought it would be good to talk about it. Yep. You know, so it's happening on a global level, it's happening on an individual level, and it's also happening just, with groups of people as well. So I thought it would be really great to be able to talk about that a bit. Yeah, and Egypt is packed right now. And I think part of the reason, of course, all the wonderful shows about Egypt and everything, but I think part of the reason is that I often say that Egypt is the midwife. You see? Like I said, it's all about death and rebirth. Everything, the temples, the tombs, everywhere you go, it's about the new beginnings. Something finishing and a new beginning. And so when a person is in a place in their life where that's happening anyway, people often are attracted to go to Egypt, which is a perfect intuition for them to get, because the energies of Egypt really are like a midwife. They really help people to move from one stage to another. And I thought a good example would be my mother. Okay. Now, I had been going to Egypt a number of times. I've been leading tours and everything, and she never had said she wanted to go or anything like that.
Okay.
And my father also would never get on a plane or travel or anything like that. So
my parents were the same way. Yeah.
So there was no way that was going to happen. And we used to have a girls' weekend out where we went to the hypnosis convention, the National Guild.
Right.
You know, and so we would go there for the weekend, and it was just our thing that we did each year. And interestingly enough, so we're going in and out of trance all weekend and getting intuitions, and we're getting guidance about this or that. And on the way home, my mother said to me, I really want to go to Egypt with you. So what was that? Well, that was on Sunday. We were driving home. Tuesday morning, my father had a stroke and died.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So the guidance is already coming to her that Egypt would be a good thing for her, you know? So anyway, sure enough, I brought her, she was 80 years old at that point. Oh, nice. I brought her to Egypt with me in November.
What a beautiful daughter.
Well, she had been married for like her adult life, and suddenly, you know, her partner is gone, and she was really thinking, you know, should I go too? You know, this normal thing for people to feel like in a situation like that. And anyway, she went into the Great Pyramid with me, and she lay down in the king's chamber, and she actually heard a voice. And the voice said, "You will rise again."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, that is great.
Like, wow,
yeah.
You know? But sure enough, she lived for another 8 years, and she had a whole different chapter of her life. Because now that my dad wasn't there, she was sort of like the wise woman in the cabin in the woods.
Nice.
And all these people would come and sit and talk to her and or things like that never would have happened if my dad had been there. So it was a brand new chapter for her. So that kind of thing is common when people go to Egypt, you know?
Wow.
And because doing all these tours, I see it over and over again. Somebody arrives and they've just been laid off, or they've had a death, or they've had something like that. And Egypt is there to help them make that next step.
Make the next step,
you know?
Yep.
So what I wanted to talk about, that was just an example, sort of to see.
And I'm going through something very similar to that myself. Pre-COVID, I was asked to do a lot of things that involved traveling. My daughter was going to do a lot of the management end. Then somewhere in there, I lost my husband just before, 6 months before COVID. Then I lost my daughter right after, you know, when everything was first opening up. So all of a sudden, it's like, okay, how am I going to do this and juggle everything?
Right.
So I was making a decision whether I was just going to bring in more people, sit back and do what I felt like doing. Do you know what I mean? But then I started getting pushed. Spirit came and started pushing me in a different direction than A or B, almost like a C.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And started pushing me. So when you mentioned this, it was very exciting to me because the whole realization came through when I was, and shortly after I was looking at the pictures from your last trip.
Well, you see, you can just look at the pictures and still get that energy.
Because I get very 3D energy from them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't actually have to go, you know? But that
Someday
energy of it, yeah, sure. But the energy of it is still there to assist you, you know? And so anyway, what you're saying is also like a really good example, too, of how, you know, I wanted to bring out that we as a whole, a nation and also as a whole globe, we've had this death rebirth thing that's been happening because of the lockdowns and everything.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of people that suddenly had a chance to reevaluate their lives. You know, and, you know, do I really want to be with this husband? Do I really want to be with this job? Do I want to be commuting to this job? These are the things that are happening to us right now, which is why I think there's so many people going to Egypt, you know. But anyway, so I wanted to bring out that how to get through this, okay? Because the thing is, when we go through a death rebirth process, it's messy. It's usually quite messy. I had a friend who had to redo her kitchen. You know, she had an older house in Connecticut, and as soon as they started taking things apart, they found other things that were wrong and floorboards that were, you know, and meanwhile she's trying to wash the dishes in the bathroom in the sink there, and you know, so it's uncomfortable when we go through these transition times, or it can be.
That was a great example of it.
Yeah, so this is part of what we as a human species are going through right now, because what happened was when the internet came in and we suddenly had this massive amount of information, things changed. when I first went to Egypt in 1996, they had censorship. You could not even bring a magazine in.
Oh,
and
really?
the TV channels were all run by the government. So it was extremely, limited. Well, now the internet, it's all wide open. And this is happening in different ways, different countries, but for different people in different ways. Suddenly, one of the people I'm friendly with in Egypt, his son is a teenager, and he had shown me some app, and I said, well, how'd you find that? He said, well, I was playing a game with a girl in Australia, and she told me about it. Well, so this generation of people are global.
Right.
That is a change that humanity has never gone through before. Okay, so we're in that death and rebirth process as a whole globe too. And it's affecting each one of us in our own individual ways,
Yeah,
So
much.
So this is what's going on. So anyway, the question then arises, how do we get through it? Right?
Yeah, believe me. Yeah.
So what I wanted to point out is that the way that we will suffer the most is when we don't accept the changes that have already come about. Mm-hmm. Okay?
And December 12th, what was it? December 12th, 2012, was that the year that they were saying the world was going to end, and all that craziness. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of planetary action going on. Mm-hmm. And the Earth had tipped some, so the gravitational pull was done. And I knew of a handful of people that took their lives that year. Mm-hmm. And all of them were ones that did not accept any change whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, globally, we were changing.
Yeah,
at that
that's
time.
the thing.
Not with what everybody was saying, the world was going to just
dissolve.
Yeah,
but there was a change that was happening. And so when something like that happens, the immediate reaction is to try to grab on and
hold on tight, yeah.
Like a cat on the, yeah. Like that. So that we're going to have those feelings. But the more that we can assess the reality of what's happening and accept it somehow, that will determine the amount of happiness and peace that we have. Because the opposite is when we don't accept it, then we're going to suffer.
Right.
Because that's going to bring about pain. And I had another little thing story to share about this from my own personal life that really brought this whole concept home to me. Okay, it was at the beginning of my spiritual path, really, and I was kind of experimenting with what's real and how does it all work and all these kinds of things. And so I was going to a weekend retreat, and I thought, I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to decide that from the moment I leave the house till the moment I come back, anything that happens is a gift from the Holy Spirit, because that's what I called it at that point.
Cool.
So I said, whatever. I'm just going to stick with it, and I'll see what happens. And it's only for a limited period of time. I'm not giving my life away or something like that. Right. So anyway, I went to the retreat center. It was little different things happening, no big deal. And on Sunday, when I was going to begin to come back the next morning, I suddenly came down with what we used to call the 24-hour bug, where you're throwing up, right? And when I was up until that point, when I was a kid and everything, to vomit to me was the worst experience ever. I can remember thinking, I would rather die than to have to go through this. I mean, that's how awful it was to me. Okay? So here I am. I've decided everything is just, going to be
rainbows
a gift, So if it's a gift from me, then I'm not going to resist it, right? So I said, okay, I decided I'm going to follow through with it. And you know what happened?
What?
I still had to, lose my cookies, so to speak. But it was no big deal. It was unpleasant right at the moment, but it was no big thing. The contrast from the way I had experienced it when I was in resistance to it. I mean, I used to lie there because, the minute you move, you're going to have to throw up. And I would just, stay stiff like this because I didn't want it to happen. Yeah.
Right.
The difference between that and just like, oh, this is an inconvenience, is huge. Yeah. And it was only determined by how I was viewing it in my mind. Yeah.
Well, I'm an Aquarius with Aquarius rising and a Gemini moon, so I love change.
Well, good for you.
So I kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
But I have a mother that was a Cancer, that any little change was huge.
Yeah.
And I have a daughter that, oh my gosh, I mean, a schedule change where my other daughter and I flip when we watch the child is enough to send her in a whirlwind because it isn't kept directly in.
Yeah.
So she would have a hard time with that transformation.
Yeah.
Where with me, it's like, okay, what's up next?
Well, and so you see, that's just a perfect example of how we are all doing that now. And some people are doing just fine with it, and other people are struggling and having a lot of trauma as a result. I liked also, Janet Havoc, of course.
Right.
And when the whole COVID thing started and it was locked down and all, then, she just said, okay, everything's going online.
Yep.
Done deal. No questions, that's the way it's going to be. Everything's online. Okay, so guess what happened? The number of people attending her Sunday morning service doubled.
Wow.
Okay? More than
isn't that
doubled.
cool?
More than doubled. Because she just assessed the situation. She probably got some help from Spirit.
Yeah.
But then she just made a choice and that was it. Right? Now, other churches, like I know one, where I live, they're like, well, maybe if we all social distance and if everybody's required to wear a mask and all this. And you know what all those things did? Was they ended up getting people within the congregation angry at each other because some people wanted this, some people wanted that, and it just caused all this well, what are we doing this week? Is it going to be hybrid where some people will be, and it was all this commotion. Meanwhile, Janet has just decided and her church is thriving.
Right.
You see, so that's an example of how some people, when these changes come about, do great with it.
Right.
And other people have all these problems. And we're probably all a mix, actually, of both.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to really point out what is it that makes it difficult for us, because if we're aware of that and we find ourselves being upset or whatever, we can say, wait a minute, what am I resisting that is true? And when we discern that, then we can make a new choice.
No. We were talking on the phone too. You brought up Janet, and it made me think of it. Janet, that on Journey Within the Church, that was her church. She was actually a nun that ended up going into the holistic world. I mean, talk about transformation and change, Then we had Mavis Patilla that she and I both took classes with. And I took classes with Lynn Andrews, who wrote all the shamanic books on women, all about
stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
and stuff like that. And at the end of it, all three of them passed away in 8 days. And someone else that I knew that knew them all, I turned around and said, did they have a convention up there and forget to invite some of us? Because it almost seemed like it was a convention that all these very people that had really gone through the transition and change had accepted so many changes in their life, both of them. Both of them, and Lynn I didn't know as well. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just good friends with someone that does a lot of her work for her, computer work and stuff like that. but so much change. It was just so weird that they all died in such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, they do say that there are these sort of nodal points, and people in astrology know about these, or they're very aware of them. But there are those. I think they happen all the time, but some of them are much more pronounced than others.
Yes.
But anyway, that's really what I really wanted to make sure to try to convey.
So many of my clients that I'm reading as well are going through huge transformation and changes.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to me.
And the other thing too is that you notice a lot of people are talking about decluttering. Like I'm getting rid of this, or all these kinds of things, and that is a symptom of the whole death rebirth process. You're going to clear things out. So people who are doing that are going with the flow because it's appropriate right now.
So I just want to put in, this is Ruth Shilling. You can find her on Facebook. She does a lot of interesting travels and stuff. She also does the spoon bending, and by the time this airs, she'll have already done it at my shop. And I got to tell you, I asked my husband's aunt one time, how did we end up together? And she laughed. She said, you remind him of his favorite person, his grandmother. And she got a cruise line to park a boat in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and do spoon bending, psychic, mediumship, all kinds of stuff. She actually harassed them until they did this trip. And her whole family went, but I wasn't in the family yet. So I'm laughing because I'm thinking that between the two of us, we could probably get some cruise company to pocket the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
But if you have troubles finding Ruth Shilling, it's Shilling, no C.
Yeah.
If you have troubles getting a hold of her, you can always get a hold of me. And I'll get a hold of her. She's written quite a few books.
Yeah.
She's just, she studies up on all the stuff.
Yeah.
So
if you just Google my name, there are a whole bunch of different things.
Bunch of different things, yes.
Yeah.
And as well as being a psychic and a medium and doing the whole nine thing. And but your tours, the pictures that I just saw, I had seen the pictures from a while back you had sent me, and then I saw some of the pictures and it was like, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a hard thing to have to do.
It is a gift to be able to do it.
It's absolutely
and
beautiful.
to participate in the transformation that people have, some of them, and other people, it's just the best vacation they had. So
the best vacation, yeah. It depends on where you're at. It depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things that part of me wants to see, part of me has a whole list.
When it's time, you'll get the tap.
I'll know.
Definitely.
I'll know.
Definitely.
But like you talked about, I'm very fortunate. Like, I'll call somebody up because on Facebook, there'll be this smiling, happy face, and I go, ooh, they're in trouble. I'll give them a call. Are you okay? So I don't, even though I block a lot of it, like in the grocery store, you could come up to me and I couldn't even tell you what color hat you had on, on Facebook. So like I said, the pictures literally brought me there because I'm really good at doing that.
Yeah.
Because I astral travel all the time.
Yeah.
5 years old, my parents would sit there and say, we're going on a vacation, and I astral travel the night before. I go, Daddy, can we go down that street? And he goes, why, honey? And I said, why would I go down that street? Why do I go down? There's a cow on the top of a building and we can make our own sundaes. And he'd say, how does she know this? We've never been here before. Do you know? So it's this, I can do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But then I like to see it in person too.
Well, when it's time, you'll know.
When it's time, I will let you know, yes.
Absolutely know for sure that you will know. You will know.
But that's, we met down at Journey Within, and just a lot of things. But that day at that restaurant, that was so much fun. All the tables around are like, what are these people
we even got
doing?
the waitress to do it.
We got the waitress to do it too, yes. Yes, we definitely caused a little little thing over there, but it was it was really funny, and it was a lot of fun.
It's just fun. Yeah.
Well, and I got to tell you something. You don't realize how the manifesting energy is, because I don't have them on my phone anymore, the pictures, because whatever the new phone, it was before they had the clouds and all that stuff. But some memories on Facebook came up when you were there. And there was a picture, one of the guys in the chair actually looked like he lifted out of the chair with the energy too, like he was floating. It was a crazy picture. I'll have to remember to send it to you.
Yeah, great.
Next time it comes up in memories.
Yeah.
But a few of the old timers that are there are so excited that you're coming to the shop again.
Oh, great. Well,
And,
it'll be a pleasure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So are you doing are you doing readings and stuff like that, or?
Well, right now I'm so involved in the Egypt tours. I have like 4 tours coming up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I do still have more books. I've authored quite a few books. One is on intuition, learning how to get guidance, direct guidance, and things like that. And
My first book, I'm a third of the way through, and I just,
Yeah.
shiny penny, I go to that way.
Yeah, but there's a follow-up for that one, and I have some others. So I am doing some things. I do some private readings, but not a lot.
Not a lot, not a lot anymore.
But I do the channeling now, which is really my love,
Yes.
So.
Well, I started the channeling, actually, my beginning of channeling was channeling scripts for hypnosis. And because I had problems letting the energy come in, it made me nervous because I could feel the deaths sometimes, what their deaths were.
Oh,
so I had a real problem with it.
Yeah.
And actually, Tony Stockwell, which we went to quite a few classes,
Yeah.
I saw you at here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I felt very safe with him, and I finally allowed them in. But I didn't realize I just had to ask them not to do that. But 1 second of a heart attack is not fun.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got rid of that, then bada boom, everything just opened up completely.
Yeah. And I am just so glad too. So many people have gifts they're not using, and you are using yours, and you're just bringing so much benefit to so many people.
Thank you.
I feel kind of choked up just even saying that,
so
because
much.
it's just so so true.
You know what I had recently? I had a gentleman come to me, and he had a much younger wife than him, and that seemed healthy and everything, and he was 73, healthy man, he's still working, and she passed away very suddenly, had a heart attack, fell, done. And in the process of that, when that happened, he came to me, he went to somebody that was one of the makeup stuff, look at the obituaries, So I almost didn't see the person because they wouldn't give me their first name. He had somebody else call in, wouldn't give the first name, everything. And I'm like, I don't have time to play with this stuff, I can't look you up in the first name. Plus, I was doing this 25 years before there was where you could look everything up. You know what I mean, really? And when he came to me, I saw so much healing take place with him that I was so exhausted just from my life, not from him. So exhausted. I went and did errands, and I came back and I said, I have to do a Facebook Live and just offer free readings to some people because, oh my gosh, Spirit was just telling me that I needed to do that. But then you know what they do? They're so good to me. After that happened, I got bookings for group mediumship readings all over the place. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. If we follow the guidance, we're always so much better off,
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
I think we're getting close to wrapping it up, so I want to make sure that I say again, it's Ruth Shilling. Check her on Facebook. As I said, she does a lot to do with Egypt that I think you'd really enjoy, just the pictures, if nothing else. She's got quite a few books out that are extremely helpful. And if you can't get it through her, give me a call and I'll connect the two of you.
Great.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Patty.
Yes,
You're just
yes.
the best.
Thank you. I'm excited. And I think I did good.